dokie, and we are recording. Welcome to the Actor and Agent podcast with myself, Jen, and Snegina. Both Snegina and I's camera will be off this time, but we can focus on Maria, but next time we'll all be back. Today, we are joined by another lovely lady, and she has been working in casting for about 6 years now, and now she works for a huge casting office called Mayrs Brandstatter. Welcome, Maria Georgescu.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Hi, Maria.
It's so nice to have you here. It kind of feels like it almost like validates us in a way, because it's the first time we actually are having a casting professional on Actor and Agent. But it's interesting though, because your beginnings, because we were looking at your bio, your beginnings was actually in acting. I'm so interested to hear about that. Like, tell me about your journey to get to casting.
Well, I have always loved acting. I started very young doing theater camps in the summer and then in school, always trying to audition for the lead role. And in high school, I was doing all the extracurricular plays and theater meetups that I could do and going on trips to go see Broadway shows and stuff like that. So I was always just really invested in acting, and that's what I thought I wanted to do. So I signed up for school in LA. Wow. And left my little sunny suburban home of Calgary, Alberta, and moved to Hollywood when I was 18. Yeah, which that is where I became a woman. I don't mean that in the... I mean that in the... I became an adult.
Yes.
I should say.
Well, I guess you would have to grow up pretty fast being dumped in Hollywood, basically.
Yeah, because the school basically was right in the heart of Hollywood. So we didn't have a campus that we could live on. So we had to just literally live in buildings down the street. So we were just living amongst the Hollywoodians, and which are all, I mean, there's a lot of normal people there, but I would say it's 70% weirdos.
Yeah.
And which is great. I mean, it gives it character, and I certainly look back on it fondly. It's not like a dark period of time that I lived there. It makes me laugh. It warms my heart to think about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, what the heck? My parents dropped me off, and their faces were hilarious. They were just proud, but also nervous. Just what have we done? What have we done? But it was great. I lived near and with people that I went to school with. So we'd walk together to school, literally down the Walk of Fame was my journey to school every day.
Oh my gosh.
Or to college, I should say.
Yeah.
The school was called the American Academy of Dramatic Arts.
Very fancy.
I did my audition for it here in Vancouver, actually, which was a lot of fun. I drove out with my dad.
Oh, wow.
And it was no pressure, but we're going 12 hours away from home so that hopefully you get into the school.
Oh my God.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was fun. And the schooling was great. Really good teachers who have had a lot of experience in LA. They all were older and had been been around the block in terms of their careers and just have done everything. And so they were just all really great to be under their wings. And my favorite class in that whole semester was the business of acting, which is where they got into agents and headshots and publicists and basically what it means to have a relationship with those people and what a healthy relationship looks like with those people. And that was something I never even thought about before. Me being a theater kid, it was revolutionary. I was like, oh, there's a whole, this is a job. It's not just for fun.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that transition happens for actors, young actors especially. And that's, I think, when they decide whether or not they want to do it.
Yeah.
And I still wanted to do it. But my third year there, I got the opportunity to work because I was no longer in school. I had graduated. So I interned at a whole bunch of different places, like a production company, a talent agency. And I even did a little bit of interning for a writer. So I got to read and transcribe scripts. And
Cool.
that was for, a short period of time. But I did always think about, oh, what if I write something, or, so I dipped my toe in a lot of ponds.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I liked everything as a whole. I discovered a lot more outside of acting that I liked. So I kind of started going down that trajectory. And casting didn't start until I moved to Vancouver. So
Wow.
that was like a first when I got here. And ever since then, I've been super into it. I think that's what I want to do for the rest of my career. But the nice thing, as we were saying before, the nice thing is that you can kind of, there's so many different things you can do and so many opportunities to switch gears, especially, if you're connected in the industry and you have a friend who's like, hey, do you want to co-write on this pilot that I'm trying to produce? Or, hey, do you want to like help me pull together some outfits for this music video I'm doing? It's like, why not?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you really have like kind of, you've got such a great understanding of the industry, because you've almost seen it from like every kind of aspect. I really love that, actually. I feel like it's so valuable. And then even to just be like, okay, yeah, I mean, I'll go down. I really enjoy the casting route, but who knows what the future may hold. I think that's really quite nice to be so open. To be so open.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
I think your openness and how you took advantage of your time in LA to try so many things, like it's like a guidebook to young people. Like, this is what you should do.
Yeah.
I'm such an advocate of like interning and trying different things instead of just like being like, okay, I think I want to be in PR, so I'm going to go for it. And then you try it and you're like, oh my God, actually I hate this.
Yeah.
So it's just so helpful. Like I did a similar thing. Like I did want to be in PR, and then I tried it and I was like, no, absolutely not. So
Yeah.
it's so valuable to just, like you said, dip your toe into all these little things. And then you kind of like open up your brain to, okay, what am I good at? What am I enjoying the most? What road can I take next? Yeah, that's super exciting. So good for you. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I think it like takes the pressure off. I feel like, and not even, this could apply to any young person trying to make their way in the world, but basically just taking the pressure off of picking one thing. I know that's easy to say when I'm in an industry where there's so many different things you can do. I'm sure, if you decide to be a lawyer, you kind of need to stick to that, or like a doctor, you definitely do need to stick to your schooling. But again, like taking the pressure off a little bit is what I felt like kept me just mentally healthy the whole time I was progressing through my 20s, so.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I think that's really great. I think that's so great. I mean, I wouldn't say that I have had, I mean, mine's just been on the actor side. I think as far as I've ventured is like, ooh, theatre, ooh, what? ooh, film, just kind of like, where it's not really,
I don't know, Jen. On the back end, though, with your like side jobs, you've pretty much done
side
it
jobs
all. We just talked about that yesterday, so I feel like that's still helpful, having all those different types of experiences too.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
just
side jobs,
out, right? Yeah,
I'm grateful for side jobs. I mean, it was like in LA, for example, working at like a restaurant there. It just is exactly what they say it's like you walk in and there's just different generations of actors who work there, and that was amazing because everyone just like, I think one thing I miss about LA is just the stories that people have to tell and how willing they are to share. It's a very like, you'll get into an Uber there and it's like the conversation has begun, the networking has begun. Like my Uber driver is like, what are you working on? He's like, I'm writing a script right now. I'm like, okay.
Nice. Nice.
Whereas here it's a little bit more like private and it's like, who you know. And I still like it though. I like networking. I think that's one of my, if I could, well, maybe I can put it on my resume. That's like a skill that I definitely think I have is networking.
Definitely. That's totally a skill.
In LA, it's like a necessity. It's like you have to or you will not proceed.
Yeah. I've been there a couple of times just for like vacation, and I remember being like at a gas station like getting gas, and the guy at the pump next to me being like, hey, you two look really cool, like, where are you from? And then just starts this whole conversation, and then it's just like, you know, I'm having this cool New Year's party, like, do you want to come? And oh, you work in this industry? Oh, cool, my friend does this, and like, he'll be there, we can connect you, da da da. I'm like, what the heck, where am I? Like, it's so great. Yeah, well, I grew up in Vancouver, which, you're right, it's so like, people are pretty closed and like surface, and they don't just like come out and tell you like everything, because if they did, you'd think there was something wrong with them. But in LA, it's like people come there to get these opportunities and to connect and to make things happen for themselves. So they're like there and they're ready. They're like looking for you, and
let's
like,
go.
I'm gonna tell you. It's pretty. It's interesting. It's pretty great, actually. If you can like sift through the bullshit, but
sometimes it's exhausting. Like, definitely. Sometimes you're like, can we not
switch off? Can I just get in a cab and not have to worry about like being on? You know, do I have to perform for you and tell you my resume? Come on. Come on.
Exactly.
That is exactly what it's like there. But I do miss it, because I think it's got a lot of personality, and I felt like, it was one of those places where, I know this is going to sound cheesy, but there could be like something great waiting for you literally around the corner, you know?
Nice. Nice. I love that. So, because obviously you mentioned that the kind of the casting doors kind of opened when you first got to Vancouver. Because I know that you kind of sort of met Snezina at Freeman Casting.
Yes.
Which obviously is a different type of casting.
Crossed paths. So
briefly,
I had been working there, and then we had obviously people in common, and then we met at a social function. And she had just started there, I think, recently. And so it was interesting. But I'd love to hear your perspective about, well, I know we were both there for a pretty brief amount of time, but it's crazy, I bet, like how different background casting is from principal casting. It's quite different. I actually really liked both. I felt that extras casting, background casting was really tough and really time consuming, and I really respect like everyone who's doing it, because that was like a challenging time for me. I did like it though, and it taught me, I mean, I just feel like that's like the hardest I've worked thus far in my career, probably. Like the hardest like time and labor that I did was then, because it was just the sheer quantity of work when it comes to extras. And now I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like they might not have to put as many extras in just because of COVID rules. I could be wrong, but back then it was like, we need 200 people tomorrow or something like that, you know, and you're like, okay.
And they all need to have a limp or something. Do you know what I mean? Like something very specific. You're like, really?
And you're like, oh, the limp guy, he's not going to show up tomorrow. So you're going to have to find another limp guy. I know it's 11:45 p.m., but like, get on it.
I'm like, okay. But it was just like, it taught me like camaraderie between working with agents, and just like them being available to you and like wanting to help, and then just like, okay, let's get this done. And I think it is the hardest it was like the hardest job I've done, I should say, because it was just, the quantity and the load of things that you had to do on a daily basis. And it was just very last minute and quick turnaround. So I think it really prepared me to move on to principal casting. And I think, and anything in general, like I just learned what it was like to get snapped at by productions and like, hurry, do this, or like, we no longer need this, you know, and they're not intentionally being snappy. It's just one of those like time is money things.
Of course,
you feel it the most in those kind of jobs where things are last minute. So I'm sure there's other jobs within like a production that are that last minute as well. I imagine costumes probably has a lot of stress on their shoulders, and
I can imagine.
Things like that rely solely like a day-to-day update, you know? Whereas like in principal casting, we do have some last minute stuff, and we have days where we work late, but a lot of it is done in advance, and we're always like, it takes us a little bit of time to cast just one person, you know, like it's a bit more of a process. So I think extras really prepared me, and I'm like so grateful for that experience, because I I just feel like it gave me a backbone that I didn't have before. Like it just throw you into the deep end and you go, and then you're just like, you come out of it and you're like, okay, I got this. You know?
Yeah.
So like if I can take that, I can take anything. Jeez.
Yeah, I'm grateful for the experience, honestly. It was great. It's just like,
wow,
I can do this. Okay, let's go. Next.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Obviously, I can relate, and it's such an intense job. And for those women that I worked with that are still there and doing it, I'm like, wow, good for you. Like that takes a lot of like your time and mental energy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean about the backbone thing, because like people do kind of crack the whip from everywhere, and like Yakir said, like it's snap, 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 and you have to sort of be like, okay, this isn't against me. This is just like this is how it works, and we need to just get it done and not take it personally. And I feel like that was kind of like a growth that I did of like trying to not take things personally and the different attitudes of people, and just being like, okay, like let's just get into this work mode and get it all
totally
done.
Yeah, that's like the industry in general. Like no matter where you work, it'll just be, everyone is just trying to deal with everything on a daily basis because it's such a high pressure film and TV, like mostly is like this. But yeah, it's just high pressure, lots of money, time being spent wisely is like the number one priority. So I just I agree with you there. I feel like getting the whip cracked from all angles is what got me thinking, like it got me going faster in general. So like when I moved to the next job, which was principal casting, my bosses would give me the review that I was really fast, and I was like, oh, well, that's a skill I learned from doing extras casting, because you have to be fast. So so there's just so many things that even that brief period of time working in extras I learned from. So that's why I say to people, I'm like, if you want to go try something, even just for a short amount of time, it's worth it, because you know, if you actually invest, you'll gain something from it, whether it's a skill or a connection or like an idea of something you want to do, you know, creatively.
Yeah,
100%.
definitely.
No, I love that. So when you left Freeman, is that when you went to Mayrs and Brandstatter, or was there oh, cool, awesome. Wow. I mean, because they cast some really big stuff. Like, I was looking at credits and being like, my God. I'm like scrolling through. I'm like, wow, that's some seriously cool stuff.
Yeah.
Is it, I mean, do you, I mean, how involved are you in the, like, the process of, like, you know, do you kind of like, because I do follow some casting professionals in the UK. And it seems like when they first kind of, I guess, accept the job or win the bid for the job or whatever, they seem to kind of almost like break it down and try to understand the characters. Is that kind of what you guys, is it kind of this like similar across the board? Like, what, you know, when you first get like a job, like what's the process to figuring out who you're going to
the process, it's a really like fun and interesting process. And it's nice when we're not in a super big rush, because then we can kind of, you enjoy it a little bit more instead of like stressing about getting it done. So like, I mean, getting a script in advance is one of the most wonderful things ever, because sometimes we'll get a script late, and that's just the way it is. But sometimes we'll get it late, and then you kind of have to, you know, pay attention to all the details, but you kind of have to move faster. So it's not as indulgent sometimes. But if we get something in advance, so let's say we've got this project, what we'll do is we'll start with, and I'm basically the assistant along the way. So I work simultaneously with my bosses, and they tell me at this point I have the process. I could do it with my eyes closed, but you know, at the beginning they're leading me through it. And it was fascinating, because obviously I want to be a casting director. Just I have my own company one day.
Of course. So
it's really nice to be under the wing of people who have been doing it for so long, because then you just, obviously they've had a lot of success. So their process is probably, you know, this is what I will take into my future endeavors, because so we start breaking down the script. So we're looking through all the roles, and obviously we're Canadian casting, so we're looking at certain roles versus others. Sometimes you pick up a project and they've already got the lead roles kind of assigned to American actors. It'll like, they come with the project, you know, Like, oh, we've already assigned, I don't know, Brad Pitt to this one role or something. Oh, okay, so we're not going to look for that one.
Right. Cool.
Like, let's try to replace Brad Pitt. No.
Yeah, exactly.
The answer is no.
Yeah. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll look through all the roles, and obviously we read the scripts, whether it's like TV show episodes or just a feature film. And yeah, breaking them down, we work with like a website that does that for us, but sometimes I've been asked to do it, and that's a lot of fun because, I don't know, you get to put your own little twist on what the characters, like, you get to write out the little descriptions, and I'm already thinking about like, who would be good for this, and obviously my bosses are too. They just know all the actors, you know, they have like a little filing folder in their brains, and they have all the, you know, oh, this guy would be good for this, or this would be a cool choice for this. So yeah, and then we make the sides that the actors read in their auditions. And then that's when the selecting begins. So we kind of release these breakdowns. The agents do their part. They submit the actors that they think would be good. And then my bosses go in and, you know, pick a whole bunch of people per role. I send out right now we're doing only self-tapes because of COVID, as you are aware. Yeah.
Of course. Yep.
So yeah, I send out the requests. I do most of the like conversations with agents. So I'm kind of just like the middleman between my bosses and agents. So I'm like a messenger type of role. And it's important because, you know, agents have a lot of questions, and now I always do my best to answer them because I know that, you know, if you need more information, that's like the most important thing. It's like, it's hard to proceed unless the question is answered, you know? So yeah.
Absolutely.
Then the auditions 100%. Come in. My bosses take a look, and sometimes they ask me, you know, like, as well, what do you think about this? Or can you think of someone who looks like this or has this accent? So, you know, stuff like that. And my repertoire is slowly growing. Like I feel like if I'm told, can you find like a lumberjack looking guy, then my brain already has little men popping up in my, you know, when I first started, I was like, how am I going to keep track of all these like agents and their names and their phone numbers, and then all like the many actors they each have on their thing? But you just like do eventually. It's just a muscle that you work.
Yeah, of course. I feel like that's like, I feel like honestly, it's almost like it's like a requirement to be in casting. Like you need to have like an incredibly good memory to just remember everyone's names, faces, and like you say, it's almost like this like filing system in your mind. Like you're like, oh yeah, like, oh, I met that one person that did that one time. Oh yeah, okay, cool. We can pull that person in. It's like, wow, that could have been like 3 years ago, but you're like, oh yeah, this person. So it's incredible. It's incredible because considering how many people that you actually meet, and even now, I guess you probably see a lot more self-tapes. You probably see a lot more people come through. So
it's a lot.
Whew, I mean, I'm exhausted thinking about it.
Yeah, I had a couple questions for you. I was curious about like the in-person audition process versus self-tapes. Do you find that you have time to see more actors now, or is it the same?
I think we're seeing more for sure per role, just because there's no longer the time restraint of doing it in the room. And I think it's definitely good for my bosses as well, because it can be really exhausting to do full days of auditioning, even just like watching, because you want to give your undivided attention. And I imagine it would be exhausting by the 10th hour, you know, and they're obviously pros, so they're so used to doing that. But I'm just thinking, if I'm putting myself in their shoes, that would be hard. So I feel like the future will hold a little mix of both. I can see now, and I might be wrong, but this is just my prediction, is I could see self-tapes being a really big part of the future, with maybe callbacks being in person instead of 50 people right off the bat.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I've spoken to some other people in casting, and it seems that at first it was a tedious thing that we had to do. And now we're like, actually, this could be a good thing, especially for smaller roles, like one lines and stuff, you know? Yeah. So,
totally.
Yeah, but it definitely is different. I think that in person, just personality situation that you get meeting someone or like them just walking into the room and saying hello is definitely something that is lacking right now for like the casting industry, because, and I'm sure actors feel that as well. Like there's some actors who just personality shines out of them, and that's something that you don't really get from like a slate on a tape, you know? Yeah.
We kind of talked about that in a few of our interviews with some actors, like about, well, you know, like part of getting a role is also, is he great or she great to work with? And, you know, what are they like, and what's that extra thing that they can bring to it? And you're right, that comes from that in-person connection.
I do remember like just in recent years, people really, because what we would do as well is have certain sessions be with directors and producers in person, audition sessions. And I remember them like specifically referring to someone and being like, we really liked everything about this person, maybe not for this role, but we're going to write something for them, or we're going to find something for them later on. And it's happened multiple times. Like that's not a myth. It does happen. Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, I can well imagine. I mean, that's one thing I miss, being the actor contingent of this this podcast. I very much miss that, because I feel like for me, I'm far better in person. If I like, because obviously it's nice having the control with the self tapes, because then obviously, like for me, I only ever do 4 takes, and if I haven't got it in 4 takes, like if I'm not happy, it's probably just in my head anyway. It's in there, like, so just send one of them. But it's so hard because, like, for me, like I'll always be like bantering and like having a little like chat, and that's kind of all kind of gone. You kind of really got to inject it all into being like, hi, I'm Jennifer Bradley, and it's like, it just definitely isn't a not. And let me get on with the scene. Sorry. You know? So I think I definitely love it, especially for like for you know, like the travel aspect, like not having to, you know, take time out, especially because I live on the outskirts of London. So like for me, it's like a 30-minute train journey into London, and then obviously it's probably like, I don't know, another 45 minutes to get wherever I need to go from there, and then I'm probably panicking, and then I arrive and I'm like, okay, all right, whereas obviously I can just do that all from home. So it's kind of like a healthy mix of yay and
because that was like one of the things that I enjoyed doing was I would be downstairs. For example, we have our casting office upstairs and then auditions downstairs, and I would go down there and greet actors and sign them in and like answer questions they had. And a lot of Vancouver actors are just so seasoned and used to, you know, they're just like cool as a cucumber, but there's always like some new people maybe who are new to the industry, or even seasoned professionals who are just having a bad day, and they come in, and I would like make it my mission to just like chill them out before they went in, you know, in any way. Aww, even if that just meant so like smiling or answering a question. And I mean, so often I was so busy running up and down too that I probably was the one who looked stressed, but and
everyone's trying to like calm you down. It's like, it's okay. It's like, just sit down.
But I do miss like, I love actors. Obviously I used to be one, and I connect to them. And so seeing them down there, I just was like, I've been here, and it's just one of those, I never felt like competition, not for myself, but between them. Like when I'm down there, I just feel like people are so friendly to each other, asking each other about things they've worked on. And I've always gotten like this nice sense of camaraderie down in that audition waiting room, which is kind of nice. I didn't do much acting and auditioning in Vancouver when I moved here. I kind of went straight into like the other side of that. So in LA, a lot of the rooms were kind of cold and competitive, which is funny because we were talking about how warm and friendly everyone is there and like all that. But once you get into the audition room, I personally found that it was pretty cold and competitive, and it would be literally like walking in to a room of 30 girls who look like you. That was the LA way. And whereas like here, I feel like the audition waiting room was just full of different people, all different shapes and sizes, and, you know, just from different backgrounds and all. I just felt like there was a bit more of a camaraderie there. And that's generally how I feel about actors in Vancouver. I feel like they're not over it yet. They're very, very much invested, and they want the industry to keep going here. So that's what I love about it. And I love working with them. And that's why I want to be a casting director in this city, because I just feel like the actors here are a different breed. I feel like they really, from what I've seen, are committed and excited, and nothing is too small for them, if that makes sense.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
That's so nice
lovely.
to hear.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's really nice to hear.
Jen obviously spent a good amount of time in Vancouver as an actor, and we both know our fair share amount of actors, obviously.
Yeah.
So we can definitely both agree that people here they're hungry and they're happy to work and they want opportunities. And I think that LA's always been like the place, right? So they've always have big amazing things going on. But with Vancouver, I feel like it was kind of a slow growth of like, it being kind of a busy place, and then kind of having a lot of shows in like sort of the same tone, which weren't like that interesting.
Yeah. But
I feel like now, over the past 10 years, we're getting these really cool, interesting projects that like you actually really enjoy watching on TV or on screen. And I think it's getting a little bit more exciting also for the actors. So they're like, oh, okay, like, I'm actually really, really interested in this project. So I feel like that's change has kind of happened.
Yeah. And also cool. Like Canadians are getting bigger roles now, I mean, they were getting them before, but now the doors are really opening, especially throughout COVID. I think one of the good things that came out of it for actors was that the Canadians were being, and they're always considered for bigger roles. I mean, we always look for the same roles that LA does, unless, like I said, Brad Pitt comes with the film. In which case, don't bother. But now I feel like it actually ended up being easier to hire Canadians, because sometimes, Canadians and Americans would be at the exact same level, but maybe this American was in some hit show already, and that might put them a step above, or sometimes they know someone in the production that gets them there, so it's not, a lot of the times the skill is matched, but there's always a little something extra coming from the American side. Usually it's like a social type of connection, or a project they've done, or possibly a following. I'm not saying this is the case often, because of course, like, Americans are talented hands down, but there's definitely factors that I think have kept some really good Canadian actors not rising to those lead roles. And now we're able to fill those shoes, because it's hard to fly Americans up here. It's costly. It's like, for guest star roles, for example, we're casting a lot of Canadians in those. And like, we just recently did some recurring Canadians in one of the shows we're working on. And that's like really been a wonderful thing. And I follow them on Instagram, and I just see them like, oh, check out this episode, and they're so like happy to be a part of it. And I'm just like, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's so nice. Yeah. Oh, it's great to hear. That's just brilliant. I mean, as far as like, because obviously you've cast different bits and bobs. Is there like a specific? So do you love? Is it, or do you just love it all the same? Like, would you prefer casting films, or do you prefer casting TV? Have you ever cast theatre? Because I know you love theatre.
I'm not like a actual professional show, but just in college and stuff, we'd have to, maybe, or maybe not college. I'm just trying to think. In different programs I've done, we've had to like put together a little cast for something, or, but no, I don't have much experience with theatre, although I think that would be really fun. Yeah.
Agreed.
I love how open you are. You're like I'm open to it all. Just bring it on.
I think it'd be a lot of fun, especially here. I dream of like working on one of those Shakespeare, like casting a Shakespeare in the Park or something. But or what are they called? Bard on the Beach? Is that what it is here? Yeah, sorry. Shakespeare in the Park is Calgary. Both very cute. But yeah, I think I'm trying to think. I actually really like working on pilots, because you start from the ground up, and you're literally building. I just think it's such a cool feeling to start from scratch, and build from the ground up an entire cast, and you work simultaneously with LA casting. It's like you really have to be on the same wavelength as them, and also the writers and the producers. So it's like it's kind of scary and it's a lot of pressure because it has to come out right. But I like that pressure. So I would say probably TV I like more because it's an ongoing thing. Whereas like a film, we'll start casting it and be finished it in a month or something. And then it keeps shooting for a while after. And then it's kind of just done. Whereas TV is an ongoing thing. There's recurring roles and it's definitely a bit more challenging in terms of casting because you have to be organized with who's been on the show already, or, you know, who we're bringing back. Actors, you know, they're booked up like crazy now. So you have to be careful with their availability, and it's a big juggling show, and it's it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, TV's good.
That.
I always really wanted to. I was thinking how it would be fun to cast, like when I go off on my own eventually. I'm really into music as well, and just as a listener, and I would love to do music videos, like music video casting. Yeah. Because, you know, you've seen some of the ones that come out now. They're like, for example, do you know Machine Gun Kelly?
Yes.
He just released like an hour-long music video just a few months ago. That was pretty much just like a movie with his whole album. And they cast, it was like an entire thing. Oh, and I was like,
cool.
I definitely could have, you know, like cast that, for example. Nice. There's just high production value in music videos now, and they're still being watched. And I think they don't really have, I think it's just their artistic director that they use for those, and or just the director in general. But I'm like, maybe that could be a niche that I could tap into one day, because combining two things I love, you know. So
yeah, you're onto something there for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Sounds
oh my
so
gosh.
Cool.
Yeah, that does sound really cool. Out of curiosity, because obviously we've been, I mean, yeah, this will be episode 12 when it comes out, but we've been talking quite a bit about different tips and stuff. Is there specific tips that you could offer actors, or is there like do's and don'ts, or is there even like pitfalls that they tend to fall in? Have you got like specific advice that you could hand out for actors?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
You can think of off the top of your head?
Definitely. And I think it's helpful that I came from an acting background, because I'm thinking about how to say this so that it's helpful to an actor, not just to casting. I could say, hey, like get some good lighting, you know, that will benefit us. But at the end of the day, I've seen some pretty poorly lit videos still get selected because the actor's great, you know. Of
course. So
I'm technically speaking, like, yeah, you know, get that shit together.
Yes, got it.
But I would say, I think one of the things I've seen, I'll just speak to self-tapes for now, because that's our world currently.
Yeah,
of course.
I've noticed that perhaps the energy level is low. Now, I think when we first got back from our COVID quarantine period, people were really hungry and excited. And now I think we're getting I've noticed people getting maybe a little bit lazy again, or a little bit, the energy is low, and you can really feel it in the room for sure. And I know, you know, that energy in the room is such a big thing, whether it's from an actor, from casting, or from the director. You know, there's been some directors with wacko energies who just throw actors off, you know, but they're the directors, so they're allowed.
Yeah.
Whereas like in a self-tape, it's literally just you and the camera. So you got to bump it up, you know, because sometimes I'll find myself watching and just being like, oh man, it's so close, but the energy's not quite there. And it really shows. Like, I feel like that's one of those things. I'd rather it be overboard than not enough, you know? Because when you're on camera, it may feel like it's a lot, but it doesn't translate that much. Whereas like in theater, if you're going overboard, it's like, okay, you're going overboard.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally. If you can kind of, and I think that helps with personality as well. You know, like if your energy is strong while you're acting and doing a self-tape, I think it'll just speak to the fact that, okay, this person's enthusiastic. They're probably going to have a good personality to accompany that, you know?
Yeah.
And what else would I say? I would just say, like, yeah, communicate with your agent, like, you know, because sometimes I just feel bad for some agents who are like, I don't know where my actor is. Like, they're just MIA,
no.
like I don't know what it is. And I'm like, don't worry. I'm sure there's some casting people who get angry with agents or actors, and I don't, because again, like I've seen all these different sides, and I know that we're all just humans doing these things, you know? So I never get, like, if an agent is like, I'm sorry, it's going to be super late, I'm like, it's okay. Well, hopefully we can get it seen. If not, next time, you know? Like that's, because there's not much you can do at this point, you know? The best thing to do is just be, and this is my tip for anyone in the industry, but specifically actors, because actors are the ones being judged, I would say, most harshly out of anyone in the industry. They're really looked at face value, but my number one tip is just like, be kind, you know, be kind to each other, be kind to your agent or on set specifically, because we will hear about it if you're not, you know, like we do.
100%.
People get dropped, like, you know, it does happen, because there's just so many like good, nice people out there. So if you're not, that's gonna be it for you. I feel like. And yeah, I've definitely, like, when we were doing in-person sessions, if someone came in with like a negative attitude, that would definitely be something I would not forget. And I don't, like, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. I personally don't easily forget. And I think casting directors are like that. Like you said, they really need to have a good memory. So specifically, if you're being weird, we will remember. You know,
Not the good kind of weird. The bad
not the good. Yeah, not quirky, weird.
Yeah. And the thing is, I've always heard that. Everyone's always said, like, you know, make sure that you're nice to everyone, because you never know, like, you know, assistants and stuff like that, because one day they're going to be, you know, casting directors, or they're going to be direct. Yeah, but it's true. And the thing is like, I mean, I've always had that mentality where I'm always nice to everyone. Or I try to be nice to everyone unless it's a really bad day. But even then, I can't imagine ever being in a situation like, you know, it just doesn't make sense. Whereas you can see sometimes when you're in the room, like in the green room, kind of like, and you can see someone's having a bad day and they're just being a bit crappy. Yeah. And you're just like, that's going to get back. Even this is in the green room. They you know, these guys are going to hear about it, and you're just going to look like a douche. So just don't do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's not good. What I'm interested in as well, Maria, is that, so here in the UK, so here in the UK, it's very normal for, and it's encouraged actually, for actors to reach out and write to casting directors directly, and to basically kind of see, interesting reaction, and to basically kind of like, so in the title of the email, basically say, you know, so something like, for me, it'd be like, oh, natural redhead, British Sign Language skills, and then playing rage, and just then kind of saying, if it's an introductory one, being like, oh, hey, just thought I'd be on your radar, here's my info, not like a novel, but just kind of just to shoot it out, and then only ever write in the future if you've got something to say. So something like, oh, I've just booked in blah blah blah. Now obviously that's here in England, but we have like hundreds of casting directors here in England, and it's kind of like the mentality that it's almost it's kind of known as like their job to know actors out there. But I'm interested, because obviously I've talked to Snezina about this, obviously in Vancouver, and I don't think it's the same in America. I think it's very much like a wall, like you do not cross that line. Yeah. But in Vancouver, like, how do you get people that reach out? I mean, not in a crazy way, but as in like, as a non, you know, just being like, hey, I'm just putting that out there and I'm just backing back, you know, professionally. Do you get there? And is your casting office open to something like that, or not to, you know, open the floodgates for you, but just, you know, just curious.
Yeah, no, we've definitely had, it's more coming from agents, I would say, pitching their actors, or just showing us like, here's a new person on our roster, or this person's back in town. And I get those emails a lot, like a lot. But from actual actors themselves, it's pretty rare. I've noticed anyways. But I am the one who fields them. So I will always look first before, and my bosses will they'll look themselves, but I think because they're so busy, and that's the case with all the casting directors in Vancouver, because like you said, there's not as many here. So, they do have a lot on their plates. The assistants are the one who screen everything a lot of the time if they're too busy. But of course, they'll look themselves too, but they trust us to look and then share the information with them. And that's like my job as the assistant, to know, what is kind of, I don't know if this sounds
like
bad.
Pertinent information.
Worth their time kind of thing,
No, of course. That makes sense.
Yeah, for them to look at. And if not, then I'll save it maybe for a day where I'm like, okay, today they're watching 200 self-tapes. Maybe I'll forward this on. And the number one thing I'll always do is, if an agent is pushing someone, I will always forward it to them, because I've been there, I'm like, I know that the agent is putting in the time, so will I. Like, I will forward this on and at least have it be seen, and if we don't reply, it's because it is what it is, but at least you know that it's being seen and being forwarded on.
Totally.
So if an actor wanted to submit their own little blurb, they definitely could, and it would be seen. And I think possibly it might not be read right away, because everyone's just so busy here, but I don't think it's futile. And I think if it's written in a way, that's fairly brief but informative,
yes,
then
I know what you mean.
Yeah, or even, if the actor writes it out themselves and the agent sends it, we might be more inclined to open an agent email that we trust, rather than, Billy Bob Thornton's email. I don't know why I picked him.
Well, I mean, I'm sure if Billy Bob Thornton wrote to you, you'd be
Attack
like,
on Billy Bob. No, just kidding.
Just kidding. I would totally open his email. I'd be like, what? What do you want?
Well, yeah, hello.
I was trying to use a generic name, and then Thornton came out for some reason. So
I love
here
it.
we are.
No, that's fine. That's absolutely fair.
We'll take it.
I love the way that you went there.
Yeah,
no,
I think it's pretty, like, I think you're right. Like, I think LA, that's like a big no. Like, there's very clear lines drawn in the sand. I think England is what you described, and Vancouver is probably somewhere in the middle of those two.
Right.
Yeah. But if I was a casting director, like doing my own things, I would definitely be open to reading them. I think, like I said, though, I would probably have my assistant, I'd pick someone that I trusted to screen things for me, and then have them pick and choose what to forward on to me, because at the end of the day, it's like, here's my, like, really honest opinion about this, is that I feel like we just need to see you on camera, or like in an actual TV show,
yes.
Even demo clips, like, if it's not, and this might sound again like a chicken and egg thing, but a lot of the times, if your demos are just previous auditions, I mean, we will use them, but we always prefer like stuff that's just on screen, like an actual professionally filmed thing,
Of course.
So if you can get yourself into just student films right at the beginning, or like commercials, or, just little things here and there, and use those clips as a demo, that's what we'll really look at, instead of like a written out blurb, because we like to watch and see what you are, rather than read what you are, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. I mean, you guys are in a visual medium, so of course you're gonna wanna see rather than read. I think over here it's very much like, I mean, most people don't ever expect to get a reply. The actors, because obviously we're fully aware. Like, there's lots of us, and even though there's lots of casting directors, there's about times 100 of however many casting directors over and over and over again for actors. But what I've heard just on some like webinars that I've listened to is what they do is they kind of file it. So they kind of like create folders like for specific age brackets or like specific special skills or whatever. So they might not read it then. Yeah. But if there's like an opportunity that comes up in the future, then they're like, oh, there was this person who was blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, oh, so yeah, I can see the point of it, but I can also see from your side, because the thing is also listening to other casting peeps, is that they're literally like, if we just read emails, or like if we read everyone's email, we would not do our job, because there's too much. So you have to draw a line somewhere. Yeah, exactly. So it's like you literally have to draw a line. So it's like, do you want things to be made and cast, or do you want me to read your email? Like, what? What do you want?
Yeah,
what do you
no,
want from me?
you're totally right.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good move on their part. So yeah, if you have like something, you know, like, hey, this is a special skill I have that not a lot of people have, or, you know, or especially now, like diversity and ethnicity is a big thing that we're really trying to cast accurately, you know, especially, you know, depending on like what we're doing. For example, like if you're looking for a specific Indigenous tribe in Canada, like that's a hard thing to find. And so if you're sending us an email about that, that's fantastic, because that is something we'll make note of, you know, or like, you know, just... I'm trying to think of other special stunts, for example. That's fantastic. You know, we're always looking for stunt actors, and so I don't think it would hurt. I don't think it ever hurts. You know, as long as you're not like writing some weirdo email, then it never hurts to just put out a little extra. And of course, maybe like talk to your agent about it.
Yeah, just to like run it by them.
Like,
yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry,
that makes complete
what?
sense.
To who?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh
like
no,
all
I
the
mailed
blood
it to their
drains from your
house. It's
body.
like,
along with like a tissue that I kissed with lipstick and like put it in their mailbox. Like, okay.
Creep factor. Yeah, no, that's beyond. Like, that's just beyond.
That's never happened, by the way. So.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. I'm so pleased, because I think that would just be so
creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, just beyond creepy. I don't know about you, Snezina, but I'm thinking maybe now might be a good time to do random questions, potentially.
Yeah.
Do you think?
But I also would like to ask Maria what she's watching right now and on TV that she's enjoying.
Oh,
yes.
cool. Yeah.
I love that question.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm not super stoked on a lot of the new stuff coming out. I feel like a lot of stuff is being churned out quickly, and I don't know, I'll watch like a quick trailer and be like, no. Sometimes I'm in the mood for it, you know, but right now I've been really craving just like solid television that I know is good. So I've kind of like gone back.
I know what you mean.
I've kind of gone back a few years, and I've watched the show Sharp Objects on HBO.
Oh, God, that was so
it's
good.
all just stuff I didn't have time for like pre-COVID, because I don't know, I had a bit more of an extracurricular life, you know, but now I work from home, and I'm seeing friends pretty rarely right now, just, you know, maybe on the weekends in the safest way I can. But, you know, pretty much during the week, I've just for my own peace of mind, I'm like, I'm just going to stay home as much as possible during the week. And so, and I just need just something that I feel like is solid and well written, acted, directed, all that. So Sharp Objects was brilliant. And it's all just shows, you know, I've got a lot of film people in my life, and I always just write down the recommendations, because I'm like, if you like it, I'll like it. That's facts, you know?
Nice.
Yeah.
And so the next one, I finished that, loved it. The one I'm currently watching, which is, I have now decided is my favorite show of all time. I'm giving it that title, which is, it's a big deal, because I like a lot of stuff. I'm not really a hater. I like a lot of stuff, but Mr. Robot.
Oh, I haven't watched that yet.
I haven't seen it either. Oh, okay.
Ooh.
And that's the thing, is I keep hearing that, and I'm like, I need someone to talk to about this.
Maria, I'm gonna watch it next, and then I'll chat with you about it.
Yay! Okay. It's like the Christopher Nolan of shows, like I would say.
You just sold me.
Sam, I don't know how to say the creator's name. His name is Sam Esmail or Esmail, I don't know, but Remy Malik is in it, and he's amazing. Sensational. Yeah. Amazing. And everything about it. It's like the most atmospheric show ever. And it's quite dark, but not in a way that you know, turn off the TV at night and are depressed. You just, it's because it's so good. Like I maybe it's because I'm like a film nerd, but film and TV nerd, when I finish an episode, I'm like, man, like structurally that was incredible. And, man, that scene where they did this, and I'm like, how did they? And man, that sound effect they used in that one scene was so like atmospheric, and it was so dope.
Oh, wow.
Like, I wonder if regular like people who are not in film feel the same way about this show, because I'm watching
that's
it.
What
like,
I think about too. So I don't know what they're thinking about, but
I'm like, the whole time I'm watching that show, I'm like that mind blown emoji. Like that's how I watch that show.
that.
Like that's my face the whole time.
Wow.
And it's so good. And it's, there's only 4 seasons. So that makes me sad because I'm reaching the end. It's one of those where I feel like I will have a void in my life not having it anymore.
I know what
gosh.
that's like. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you've sold us, I think.
Yeah,
on that one.
absolutely. I think I almost need to like play this clip early for Lee, my husband, so that he can, because I think if he hears your description of it, he'd be like, well, obviously we've got to start watching it immediately.
Yeah.
He's very much a film person, so he would just be like, I mean, for me, I'm like, ooh, whereas he's just like the whole, if you're saying Christopher Nolan, style TV. My God. He would be like, well, instantly we're putting that on like right now. I'm like, awesome.
It's just, it's got a little bit of everything. I've always really liked like kind of quirky, or not, sorry, quirky. I don't even know how to describe it. Kind of strange ideas and like for Inception, for example, I like ideas that like
me too.
kind of bend reality. And with Mr. Robot, you never know really what's real and not. And it's kind of slow burn with a whole bunch of stuff explained at once later on. And you're like, oh my God, one of those puzzles that come together, but very like shuffled.
You're like giving
and
me
as it
shivers.
comes together.
Just,
I'm like,
you talk about it, I'm like,
it
sounds so good. Yeah.
Oh,
wow. It was so unexpected. I don't know if this has ever happened to you when you unexpectedly just found one of your favorite shows. Wow. That's what happened to me. And I was like, okay. And I'm watching it alone because both my roommate and boyfriend are like super busy right now. So I finish an episode and I'm like, I don't know who to talk to.
I can't talk to anyone. Oh my God. Yeah. Wow.
And I don't want to turn to the internet yet because it's already been out for a while. So I'm scared that I'll like read a spoiler. So I'm like, I just have to finish it and then hit the internet with like all the articles about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
I love it.
The reason I started watching it is because I knew someone in LA who was involved with it. Oh, so I always wrote down in the back of my mind, like, watch Mr. Robot. And I always read, instead of Rotten Tomatoes, I read the IMDb reviews, which is a tip my boyfriend gave me a while ago, because I just find that there's more like user reviews on there rather than critics.
Right.
Yeah.
So the user reviews of Mr. Robot were insane. I was like, okay, like the way I'm talking about it now is how people on IMDb were talking about it. Like, masterpiece, like changed my life, like, best show I've ever watched. Wow. So I was like, all right, we're doing it.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And then finally, my third favorite show I've watched recently was this show called Search Party on HBO.
Okay.
What's that?
It's this little 22-minute long episode show, and I think there's 3 or 4 seasons of it out already. It's with Aaliyah Shawkat from Arrested Development, if you know her, with like the curly hair.
Yes, I love her.
Yes.
Yeah, and the whole show it's a dark comedy. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Broad City, but less comical and more. I don't even know how to say it really. It's basically the whole thing is a commentary on millennials.
Nice.
And,
amazing. Writing that
modern
down.
Society.
Nice.
And it's just like the premise is this group of college kids. It's like, basically, here's what I would say is if I wrote and directed a show, I'd want it to be like, this is what I feel like I would work on, you know?
Amazing.
Yeah. Nice.
This is like the type of show that I would want to come up with. I feel like this would be my style of show.
Wow.
To be creatively involved in. It's like a dream show for me to work on. There's just so many interesting, like weird, a little over the top, like characters in the show. So that's like fun for casting. Cause sometimes, you have to keep it toned down if it's just like a serious film or, you don't want to go too overboard, but every now and then you'll get a project that is like fun and wacky. And that's kind of this one. I mean, it's very grounded in reality, but there's a lot of, it's kind of like it's farcical over millennials and our current society and just about how self-involved everyone is nowadays, whether or not they know it. It's just kind of like, it's one big social commentary and it's great. It's short and sweet, but really gets to the point and you're like, yep, this is accurate.
Wow.
Love it.
God, that's
Yeah.
great.
Good
Would
recommendations.
recommend.
Good
I know.
recommendations.
I'm like, right, I've
Yeah.
got that in my head. I'm like, right, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, all on
Nice.
Crave, by the way. Crave Canada. I don't know about
Gotcha.
UK.
I have it.
Yeah.
So good.
I'll
I'm
I'll have
covered.
Yeah.
to find it. I don't know
Excellent.
what options I can do, but I will search and I will find it. I'll find it in the UK.
I'll give you my login info.
I'll change my VPN and we'll figure it out.
I just need someone to watch Mr. Robot with me.
Yes, no, that's
I'm
fine.
on it. I'm
Mr.
on
Robot.
it.
Yeah, yeah. I've definitely seen it somewhere on a streaming app that I'm, paying for. So I know it's
You'll
there.
get it.
But
It's there,
Search
yeah.
party, I don't know. Don't know if it's there. But I'll find it.
Nice.
But yeah, cool. Wow, that's great. I love that. Yeah.
Questions.
Yes, questions. Yes, cool. Did you want to go first, Regina, or do you want me to go first? What would you prefer?
I don't remember what I was supposed to ask, so you can just ask both of them.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Sure.
I was
That's
really
absolutely
busy.
Fine. No, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so I'm gonna have to rack my brain to remember the second one, but the first one. Okay, this is a really random question. So,
Perfect.
if you were, would there be something that a person would wear that would make you walk out on a date with them? So, like, if they were wearing something like so bizarre, was there something that you'd be like, no, and you'd walk out on a date? What would it be?
I feel like I would probably walk out if it was, I mean, this isn't even that bizarre, but I think
That's
it's
fine.
just like, I think this like Alberta boy uniform, which is like shorts, flip-flops, and a tank top in wintertime. Or like a Flames or Oilers, jersey. I'd probably be like, But that being said, I do love Alberta boys. Like I have my brother-in-law, that's like his style and he rocks it. But I feel like I would just be like, but that's not really like a bizarre thing. I guess if they were wearing, here's my actual answer. If they were wearing a slogan t-shirt that was mildly offensive or something, or like, one of those t-shirts that just has a phrase on it that you're just like, oh my God, that's when I would probably be like, I gotta go, sorry.
Yeah, I'm out. Peace.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like the
Cool.
female body inspector one, FBI, not that
Oh
I've
my
seen that
goodness.
around, but
Right. Okay. Yeah, that would.
They're out there.
I would be with you there. Yeah, that's not
a
cool.
little bit sketched out.
Yeah, definitely not good. What about you, Snezina? Would there be a garment that you would be you'd be like, oh no, and you'd have to leave a date or a thing?
I don't. Like a style that I don't really like is like the super, super tight muscle shirt with like the really, really over tight pants that are cropped and then like a dress shoe with no sock. I don't like that look. They're like it's usually on like super muscular guys and they're like a little bit sweaty because they like work out a lot. And they've got like the really tight shirt and like the tight pants and like their muscles are bulging out. I just feel like that's not attractive for me.
That's funny.
That's
I've
all I
seen
can
those
think of.
around.
Yeah. It's like a Yaletown thing or something.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, that's all I could think of. Jen?
That's so funny.
Jen's laughing.
The no socks thing is what gets me.
Yeah, I know. That's
Yeah,
why
you're
I
like,
saw your
oh.
reaction, Maria, where you're like, oh no.
I feel like
no.
I'm changing. Yeah, I want to change my answer to no socks as well.
Gotcha. Take note, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Put socks on.
Yeah, for me, man, I mean, I would say I haven't really got a leg to stand on because I hate to think the kind of crap I've worn on dates. So, but I think for me, this is a really weird one, but like I find it weird seeing men in flip-flops.
Yeah.
I just can't accept it. Just too weird. It's just too weird. Like, it's too weird. But that's probably because I grew up in England where you'd have to be insane to be walking around in flip-flops all the time because it's cold and mainly wet. But when you see people like running for the bus in flip-flops, like I can just imagine like a guy like turning up in rain with flip-flops on. And that's something that I would just be like, ugh. And I would probably take the piss out of them for the whole date. If I didn't leave, I'd probably just be like, flip-flops, really cool.
Yeah, you really wore those, hey? Okay.
You put your best foot forward on that one.
Hey.
Amazing.
The second question is, I've remembered, I think, but it might jog your memory, Snezhina. So the second question is, if you could visit any fictional or fantastical world, where would you go?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Well, the first answers that come to mind are always like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, land.
Same.
Just because, those are like, we grew up with those and that is amazing. But I feel like this is probably very niche, but have you seen the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus?
No, but this is the second time someone's brought this up
No
in
way.
the last 2 weeks. So I'm so like,
I have a really weird story about that movie, though.
Oh, well.
That I'll tell really quickly right now.
Yeah.
I just had started. I was 19 and I was doing background work because why not?
Yeah.
Because it was fun. And I was young and I was supposed to be in like some big ballroom scene for this movie.
Oh my God.
So I'm like not getting the call times. I'm not getting the call times. It's like the morning, still not getting the call times. I'm like contacting my agent, like what's going on. I had Hotmail at the time because I don't think Gmail's a thing. That's how old I am. And then go on Hotmail and they always had like the news and it was like Heath Ledger, died.
Yes.
And I was just like, holy shit, I guess we're not going to set today.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I
didn't know that filmed here.
So I'm like, I guess this is canceled tomorrow. And she's like, I guess so. So it was like super fucked up. But I never watched it and I should, but I think it was because it was like this weird connection I had
totally.
to his death, and I was like,
It's definitely weird. But, in the film, they tried to, he died while they were shooting it, so they had to kind of use other actors for it. But they made it work. It ended up being kind of like a beautiful way that they, because there's scenes where he kind of goes into alternate realities, which is why I picked this place, because some of them are just so beautiful and interesting, and like it's all about like going into this imaginary place. And so when he steps into an alternate reality, he becomes a different actor. So they use like Johnny Depp, I think, for one of them. And I can't remember, it's been a while since I've seen it.
Jude Law, maybe?
Yes. Yeah. Jude Law. And so that was kind of an interesting way to like fix the situation. But yeah, it's definitely got like a dark stain on it for sure. I love the visual aspect of it and just like this whole Imaginarium thing. So that's why it's so funny. I haven't thought about that movie in ages, but that just came to mind randomly because I was like, I know that, the number one thing that I want to say is Hogwarts. But I was like, let me try to pick something that's a little bit more unique.
Yeah.
I love that. What about you, Snezhina?
On that note, since we're not picking, Lord of the Rings or Hogwarts.
Oh, I mean, you can.
Yeah, of course you can. No rules here.
I mean, yeah, I'd definitely go there. But I also watch a lot of Studio Ghibli movies, and my favorite one is Howl's Moving Castle.
Oh.
And it's just so artistic and funky and weird. And his style is so amazing. Like, most of the cities and places he makes are like Europe, but like on the seaside and like very floral and green, and I'm just like, I just want to live there. That just looks incredible. Totally. Like the French bakery, but then it's like on a cliff and there's just like flowers and like the water, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so good. So
nice.
That's where I go.
Nice, I love that. Right, so I'm also not going to do Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, even though I would think, but it's actually forced me to think outside of the box. So, and then I had it and now it's disappeared immediately. Wait, come back, Jen. I'm going to have to edit this out. Shoot. Oh, no. Right. So, it was a book series, but it's now just recently been made into a TV series, but I'm not sure if it's come over to Canada. But it's the His Dark Materials world. Because I would love to be in Lyra's world, where you have so your soul is a demon and it changes into different animals, and And then obviously once you become older, it kind of sticks in an animal. So I would be like fascinated to be like part of that world. And it's so magical. And there's obviously like witchcraft and cool, beautiful things. And then also just to have like my little inner buddy as an outer buddy would be really fun. I think I would love that.
That sounded so funny.
That's literally the most dumbed down version of his Dark Materials known to man.
You sold me.
But I do love the book series. Yeah, thanks. Good.
That was one of my favorite shows that I watched this year. I don't know why. It just like went into my heart, and I was like, I love everything about this. I'm so invested.
Aww.
Yeah. I loved it.
No, it is
so good.
It's a lovely world. Really lovely
Nice.
world.
Yeah.
Really lovely world. Perfect. Oh, what a night. That was a good question to end the podcast on. I think that was solid. Honestly, Maria, it's been so lovely having you today. And I'm so sorry about the kind of the weird kind of false start situation. It was probably me, let's be honest. It was probably my internet. But you've just been wonderful, and I think it's just been really interesting episode, and also it's just been so free flowing. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I love talking to you guys.
Yeah. You're just such a lovely, glowing woman. And what's your hair secret? Because holy crap, it is so thick and long and delicious. Like, how did you do this?
I just like don't get it cut because I'm scared to go to the. So I got it cut last year, and they took a whole bunch off, which was needed because then it all grew back again. So clearly, like, obviously they know what they're doing, but I was like traumatized and literally cried. Of course. So no. It was an emotional day. But anyways, grew it all back, and so now it's hair masks and avoiding the hairdresser. That's how I do it.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Noted.
Solid.
But thank you.
Well, I had to mention that because I was captivated by your hair the entire time.
Hopefully we can get you back another time, which would be great.
I would love that. Yeah.
But yeah, so how about if we all say goodbye on 3, and then what we'll do is we'll stop the recording and we'll just allow it to upload and do all that kind of wonderful stuff. But
sounds
cool.
good.
Is that okay? Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So on 3, 1, 2, 3. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.